Hello, Hope Chapel friends. We are recording this in our Hope Chapel sanctuary, and I hope as you're watching this that you are doing well. I kind of thought, it would be good to get some information out to our congregation on kind of the state of things, the state of our congregation address, if you will. And in doing so, I could have written a letter, but I felt like that would probably be a lot to read. And so I wanted to kind of share with you in person some of my thoughts about the idea of reopening. I know that many of us really long to get back together. We long to be back in this building, enjoying worship and enjoying community, the hugs, the handshakes, the chance to sing together. And while we long for those things, the reality is right now we can't do those. Even if we were to open up right today, the guidelines say that we would have to be 6 feet apart. We would have to use masks. We'd have to sanitize before and after every time somebody enters the building. We could only operate at half capacity, which how do you determine who can come to church and who can't? And we also couldn't sing. They think that singing may be one of the ways that this virus spreads. I don't know how much of that I agree with or believe, but as we have been studying in 1 Peter, my ultimate authority is God, but as part of that, I also need to be submissive to the government as long as they're not asking me to do things that are outside of His will. So with that in mind, we are beginning to work on some plans to phase into reopening. Our superintendent of the Free Methodist Church has recommended that we wait until the fall. But as we have consulted with Dansville and Valley Chapel, we have decided we don't want to set a date. And that's kind of for two reasons. One, we think the situation is fluid enough that it could be earlier. The warmer weather has been found to slow the spread drastically. And we think that things might move along quicker than waiting until the fall. Additionally, if we say, hey, we're going to open back up Labor Day weekend, and then we can't open till Thanksgiving, what we've done is caused a whole lot of discouragement, and we don't want to do that either. So we are not setting a date, but if you were to enter my mind or corner me and say, hey, Mike, what are you really thinking? I would say I think we will be meeting sooner than later in person. And I think that that's important. I think we need to keep that kind of optimism. So with that being said, small groups are allowed to begin to meet now in numbers of 10 or less. And our church here at Hope Chapel, we currently don't have a lot of small groups. If I were to assess our congregation, I would say that that is one of our weaknesses. And so I want to use this as an opportunity for us to grow. I want to encourage us to get involved in small groups. Currently, there's a small group on Zoom on Wednesday nights. We have 2 weeks left of that. We're studying the book of Peter. You're welcome to join us in that. Pastor Brad, and Chris Smith have offered to do a men's small group. If you are a man and you would like to join a 8-week small group, I would encourage you to get in touch with them. If there are others who say, hey, I could do this, I could lead a small group, I would love to encourage you to do that. Find 2 or 3 other couples that are willing to meet together, and you can meet here at the church, you can meet in a home, you can meet outside, but we want to encourage you to begin to think that way, to think, how can we do some small groups? Are you willing to step up and lead perhaps in that area? Additionally, we have seen an increase in those that are attending our virtual services. People who wouldn't normally come to church or perhaps can't come to church for physical reasons. And we want to find some ways to help them feel welcome when the church does open its doors, when we begin meeting in person, we want to help those new folks to feel welcome. So be thinking about that. How can we may see some new faces. How do we help them come in and feel like this is a warm place, that this is a church service that is very similar to what they've been seeing online? And how do we continue to offer ministry to those who cannot come? People who are more comfortable attending virtually. People maybe who are at risk of this virus and so need to stay home longer. To that, we would like to continue to offer virtual services. Even after the doors reopen and we start meeting in person, we want to make sure that our services continue live. And so that is going to mean some testing, some figuring out, some experimenting. We've looked into getting equipment for each of the 3 churches and what kind of equipment would work for each of those situations. For Valley Chapel, that's going to be a hefty cost, close to $3,000. For us here at Hope Chapel, there is a camera system that can be operated by somebody using an app on their phone, and that's going to cost us about $400. I think that's a pretty minimal cost when you consider those that we can reach online or those who can't attend in person. That would be a pretty minimal cost. So I have proposed to the board that we make that purchase, and then each of the 3 churches, as we continue to do our services, we are going to visit each campus and do 2 services. So in the beginning of July, we will be ready, each of those 3 churches, to broadcast live services. 2 weeks will be done here at Hope Chapel using our live equipment. 2 weeks will be done at Dansville using their live equipment, and 2 weeks will be done at Valley Chapel using their live equipment, so that we can really learn this and get it figured out. The plan is to begin broadcasting all services live starting July 1st. We don't find that Facebook is a reliable platform for doing live services, so those services will all be live on YouTube, and we will get that out to you as well as on our Facebook. Additionally, we're looking for places to host a couple outdoor services throughout this summer. Currently, the racetrack seems to be the best option. It would allow us to spread out, allows us to be outdoors in open air, and we would be able to hold services there on a Sunday morning without a whole lot of issue. In each case, whether it be in the small groups or when we get back to meeting here in person or even meeting outdoors, we need to individually be responsible for assessing our risk tolerance. If you are sick or if you're worried about getting sick, if maybe you're in that high risk category, then we want to invite you to remain home and attend virtually. We'll continue to make calls, to continue to check in on you, but we want to encourage you to assess your risk and to make a decision based on your own sense of, yes, this is okay for me, or no, it is not. We will also continue to have to practice social distancing, unfortunately. We'll have to make sure we're washing hands, that we're sanitizing after uses of the building, and yes, we'll even have to probably continue with those dreaded masks. Say what you will about them. If it's going to protect those that are at greater risk, then I'll wear it. But we want to make sure that we are thinking of others even before we think of ourselves. I want to close with this. No one wants to return to normal more than me. But we need to be sure that we're being cautious in doing so. We need to be sure that we have not forgotten also the lessons of this time in quarantine. Remember the value of family, those meals that you've had together, those conversations that took place around the table or in the living room or on walks. Don't lose those things as we return back to life. The hunger to be with the community and to gather as a church. Remember that. Remember this feeling that you can't wait to get back together. Don't forget that feeling. There's going to come a time in the future when we meet constantly, week in and week out, and there's going to be Sundays where you feel like, I'd rather just go do something else, or I'd rather sleep in. I don't feel like going to church. I want you to remember this time where you're thinking, I just would love to go to church, and you can't. Don't forget that feeling. Don't feel like this is a wasted time. The Lord is going to redeem this time, and the way that he can do that, and the way we can participate with him in that, is by holding on to this desire, holding on to the fact that we miss church. We miss our church family. We miss the congregation. We miss being involved in a small group. One of the ways that we can participate with God in redeeming this is to hold on to this feeling, to keep it buried in our hearts, and to bring it up frequently as we return to normal life. Jump in a small group. Continue to pray for your church. Look for opportunities to welcome those into our congregation who have not been a part of it before. And, hold sincerely or value sincerely this church family. It won't be long, folks, and we'll be gathering back together. And I would hate for these 3 months to have been a loss. I hope all of this is encouraging to you. I hope you are doing well, and we do look forward to getting back together. Please keep watch on your emails and your Facebook page and on YouTube. We will make sure that we update you as decisions are made. God bless, and we will see you shortly.